So now, Diane, you're staying at the table. Financial performance report for the first quarter ended 30th September. Again, maybe just some general commentary on this report and then anything specific that you want to point out about what's in front of us today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first point to notice is that this is quite old. It's a September report. It would normally have come to you a month earlier. And so while it's obviously relevant, I would ask, please, that you don't spend too much time on it, because a lot of the information has been replaced with more recent information, which is what we've said on the front, where we've pointed out that the deficit we were showing in September has since improved quite significantly in October and again in November. And those of you who've seen these reports in the past will remember that it's not uncommon to have a deficit in the first quarter, because everyone is sort of they're still sort of working out what they're going to do for the year. Once this result comes out and we point out to them how bad it looks, people go away and look at their work program for the balance of the year. I'm expecting that to continue to improve, and normally the half-year accounts, Mr. Chair, presents a far better view of where we're going for the rest of the year. So while we still have a deficit of around 1.2 million, I'm reasonably comfortable based on previous years, and assuming we don't have a weather event, that we will actually manage to end up within budget for the year.
That's good to hear. So the report for the period ended 31st December, so that half-yearly report that you refer to,
yes,
will that be reported to the committee meeting at the end of January?
We would hope to, but we don't, because it's January, we don't close off early because people are on leave, which means we don't really close off until about the end of the first week in January. We'll certainly endeavour to bring you something, even if it ends up being perhaps a summarised report, given the overall position, perhaps followed up with more detail the following month.
If we can't get the full report, I think a summary would be good, just given the focus that we've got on that reducing number. And I'm pleased to hear your level of comfort around that today. So, yeah, if we can get something to the January meeting, even if the full report came to February, I think that would be helpful.
I was keen to see it as you are, so yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this report? Jimmy.
On page 66.
I have a hard copy. Jimmy, can you please give me the paragraph number and I can refer to that, please?
Attachment B, page on 66, regarding to the multicultural recreation and community center. Those budget of 1.5 million and the carry forward to the following year. I just want to know, my understanding, beginning of this year, Council H approves a 2-year financial year. 1920, that's 1.5. The 20 to 21 is another 1.5. So if you carry forward to the 1.5, whether 2020 to 21, there's $3 million, or just postpone to the, still the 2 years.
My understanding is there's some consultation going on with the people who will be using that facility.
Yes.
And so it's not, the answer's not certain yet. It will depend how the consultation goes.
Yes.
But others may know more than I do, but that's my understanding.
But Council already approved early of this year.
Yes, but
yes,
the work's underway, the discussion's underway. But as often happens, as you'd appreciate, talking with interested parties can delay the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yanni.
Thank you. Just on page 54, the lower housing revenues, I think previous reporting had showed that we were receiving more in housing revenues than what we budgeted for. So I just wondered if anyone can kind of advise what's going on. And
yes, we can.
Yep. That would be really good. Yeah. And also why we're underspent on the housing maintenance.
So in terms of the revenue, what you're seeing is the effects now of the transfers to the trust coming through. They have come through later than originally planned, but they've come through now. So we get less revenue because of those transfers to the trust. We anticipate getting a reasonable surplus at the end of the year from more advanced, from greater amounts of IRS subsidy, but that won't show up until closer to June for those.
So I thought when we gave our properties to the trust, we would get an increase in income because they access the income-related rent subsidy.
No, probably more of a discussion needed there to improve your understanding there, councillor. But essentially, if we don't own the units anymore because they're now owned by the trust, we don't get the revenue from them. That's different. The IRS comes more from the additional rent payment, which is 80% of the surplus that the trust generates on the portfolio that's leased from us, not on the portfolio that's owned by the trust themselves.
Okay, so basically, yeah, but we should still be cash positive because of the arrangement with the trust, right? It's just how it's accounted for.
Yes,
That's the difference.
because the other side of the transfer of ownership to the trust is that we don't maintain those ones that have been transferred to the trust and they own them now. So that reduces the maintenance spend overall. So that's moving in the right direction in there. Overall with maintenance, what you see is the actual expenditure. I see the commitments as well. So that's where we've got purchase orders in for work that hasn't been completed yet. And certainly, I haven't got the OPEX here, but I've got the CAPEX maintenance, and we're about 80% spent or committed there. We're all heading in the right direction with that expenditure. We've recently appointed suppliers for heat pumps, and we're currently working on suppliers for ventilation systems for a warm and dry program. We're out in the market, and that closes on Monday for installers for heat pumps. So we're heading in the right direction for that. We've done work, we've transferred some of the money, and again, it doesn't show up in these reports, but will when we make some budget adjustments at the end of this month. We've transferred some money from our maintenance into our earthquake repair program so that we can move warm and dry into those, and insulated properties and install ventilation in those earthquake properties, which wasn't part of the original scope. So there's a lot of activity heading in the right direction.
Thank you. Any further questions on this report? Okay, so we've got a recommendation to receive the information. I'm happy to move. James Goff, happy to second. All those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried.